Hey guys, it's Tad and welcome to Tad Busters. So today we're doing something a little bit different where I went to the Game On Expo in Phoenix, Arizona. And in this video, I'm going to show you some of the coolest pickups that I found, some of the really cool things that happened at this convention, starting off with this panel, which was the Expedition 33 panel with the cast. And it was so cool to be able to see all of the fans dressed up in their outfits, hearing their questions, and my goal was to be able to see and meet Ben Starr for the first time. I had my copy of Expedition 33 that I wanted him to sign, and so at the end of the video, I have a little segment that I would love to show you guys, so stick around, we got a lot to cover here. And hey, if you're new to the channel, welcome. Please give it a subscribe, like, and comment about what your favorite gaming convention is. And hey, if you haven't played Expedition 33, I highly recommend it.
Careful, Mael.
So after the panel, we hit the ground floor and we were excited to start looking for some games. Right away, my eye automatically was drawn to a bunch of retro titles that were close to the front of the expo, and I just wanted to get my hands on these and start looking at them as soon as possible. And so I started going around the floor. We saw some cool things. There was some artwork. And one thing already caught my eye, which was this PlayStation 3 display. This thing is one of the coolest time capsule gaming displays Sony ever made. It launched in 2011 as a 24-inch 3D display, built specifically with the PlayStation 3 in mind, and the big gimmick was SimilaView, where two players wearing special glasses could each see their own full-screen 2D image on the same display at the same time. Sony positioned it as a premium setup piece, originally around like $500, and it came bundled in some versions with glasses and a game. It's definitely a 2011 future of gaming product, and it was super cool to see in person. Now, one thing that I'm looking for are Duke Nukem games. I've been on the hunt for these for years. I have a small Duke collection that I'm trying to grow, and this gentleman here was helping me find some cool stuff, including Duke Nukem Critical Mass, which was for the Nintendo DS.
When all else fails, Duke doesn't.
We need to find out who's in charge and kick their ass.
Duke Nukem Critical Mass.
Now, one thing about me is that I like to collect for a lot of different consoles, DS, Dreamcast, anything that I think is cool at the time. One thing that I saw here was Leisure Suit Larry for the PS2. I bought this last year at the same con for $30. Just crazy to see how much it's gone up since then. And this Pokemon title also caught my eye. It was a cool DS-era Pokemon spin-off, but it wasn't really about traditional battling at all. This was stylus-based, where you're literally drawing circles to capture Pokemon. And the big hook here was drawing special symbols to summon legendary Pokemon for help. It did sell pretty well, and I was definitely on a kick for finding more Pokemon games, including Pokemon Rumble Blast, which I don't have in my collection. I definitely was looking at picking something like this up. These prices were pretty crazy. Now, I remember seeing this when this first came out, but I never picked it up. You're basically playing as these little toy Pokemon and just brawling your way through stages while collecting more of them. Not a top-tier Pokemon game at all, but definitely a neat little 3DS era oddball that could be cool to pick up. Another thing I've been looking for is the PlayStation TV, which is really hard to find, and I asked a ton of vendors if they had seen them, if they were around anywhere. A couple of vendors had seen them, but they were sold out within the first couple of hours if they were there. So I'm probably going to have to refer to eBay to find one of those, but I wanted to see if I could at least find some more Duke Nukem stuff before I left. Any Duke Nukem stuff that you have?
Nothing right now.
Nothing? Okay. One console I really do collect for is the Dreamcast. It's one of my top 3 favorite consoles of all time. And this is a game that I don't have that's pretty cool called Wacky Races. It's one of those licensed games that actually has a pretty decent reputation. It came out in early 2000. It was based on the old Hanna-Barbera cartoon, and it's basically a colorful kart racer where every driver has their own vehicle, gimmicks, and dirty tricks.
Oops! It's the thing got a lock on you!
Hello there, Penelope, my dear.
Now, if you've been following the channel, you know that I'm a big Nintendo Switch fan. It's my favorite console of all time, and I saw this Kung Fury Street Rage. This is a title that I don't have, but it's basically a playable love letter to ridiculous 80s action movies. It leans all the way into the neon, synth, and over-the-top kung fu parody vibe from the Kung Fury film. And on Switch, it basically plays like a really simple retro beat-em-up. I was looking up on eBay for prices, and these were definitely higher than I wanted to pay for it, but I did find a PS5 copy for a relatively decent price that I picked up. This thing is pretty cool. It's a one-of-a-kind convention item that collectors love because this sits in the weird lane between like game merch, it's a retail promo item, and a legit Nintendo oddity. This was a Donkey Kong promo item tied to Toys R Us, and this was around the Donkey Kong Country Returns launch, and at $600, it feels insane. I guess that's just kind of the number that sellers throw around when an item is obscure and aimed at hardcore Nintendo collectors. Maybe it's for somebody, but definitely a little too rich for my blood. For years, I've been wanting my own Nintendo 2DS. I never had one. I was always a 3DS fan. I loved the 3D. I think a lot of people didn't. They didn't really properly use the 3D because it could cause headaches, and it was a little gimmicky. Now, the 2DS is pretty cool. It's one of Nintendo's strangest, but I think most underrated handhelds because it took the entire 3DS family and stripped out the clamshell design and the 3D feature. The blue model was one of the launch color options in North America, and the system originally launched around $130. So they're about the same price that you can buy them now. People kind of clown on the doorstop shape, but I really like it, and surprisingly it sold pretty well as Nintendo's friendly entry point into the 3DS library. So if you don't want to spend that extra money on a 3DS nowadays, I would say go for a 2DS. It's the perfect middle ground. I love the Nintendo 64. It was the first console I ever played. I don't have this, the new Tetris, and I didn't know much about it, but it seems like it's an interesting Nintendo 64 version because it's still classic Tetris at heart, but it adds presentation and mechanics that make it feel wildly premium for the era. It's definitely not the most famous Tetris ever, but amongst fans, it has a strong reputation as one of the more unique home console entries. While we were shopping around on the floor, we saw this guy that was doing gaming tattoos. Definitely one of the coolest things I've seen at this convention, and he had a very well built out list of people that were getting tattoos over the course of the next 3 days. And as you see here, there's so many different cool pieces that you could get, and this looked like all original artwork. Definitely was tempted, but I think I'm good on spending money at the con so far. Is Duke Nukem popular still? It's
still fairly, it's like one of those, you know how like there's Marios and Pokemons and stuff?
Right.
It's like one tier below that.
Right.
Like Fire Emblem, Duke Nukem, games are like popular, people always ask for them, but it's never like the first thing that people ask for.
This guy was super cool and helped me find one of the titles that I didn't have, Duke Nukem, The Land of the Babes on the PS1. One of the coolest titles, definitely very interesting. And funny thing, when I was talking to this gentleman, he accidentally put his hand on his case after this video was cut, and his hand went through the glass case. I felt terrible. He was okay, not injured, thankfully. He definitely did break that case. And I sent him some copies of our documentary, Going Postal, because I felt bad. I definitely really appreciated his help. One thing that I always think is important to remember is that these people, these other vendors, are working crazy hours and they're human. So I do want to try to connect with them in some way and have a real conversation. I'm also trying to get a deal and trying to find a good way to marry where it's valuable for me and valuable for them, but also treat them with respect. Treat them like they are people. They're here, it's their job. They're not just doing it because they love games, but they have to make money. A lot of these vendors, it's costing them thousands and thousands of dollars. This vendor here in particular told me it cost him over 10 grand just to come out here to do this con. That's before you start making any profit. So remember, try to get a deal, but definitely be respectful. This was also a cool moment for me because this gentleman here was dressed as the Postal dude. I had actually met him before at our premiere of Going Postal, The Legacy Foretold. He recognized me, we had a little conversation. It was so cool. I actually remember signing his petition during the premiere, and it's just so cool to be able to run into people that you know, people that remember you, people that leave memories with you. So yeah, just such a cool moment. This is Resident Evil 2 on the Nintendo 64, which is such an interesting title. It's one of those releases that's cool not just as a game, but as a piece of gaming wizardry. This upcoming title is pretty cool. I have the new Switch version, but I never picked up the GameCube version, Kirby Air Ride. I think it might be worth picking up because it seemed like it had mixed reviews when it came out, but now it's more or less a cult classic. And that's a lot because of what City Trial, if you know what I'm talking about, it's a mode that people still swear by in this game. I have a friend who loves that game to death. This was directed by Sakurai, the creator of Smash Brothers and Kirby, and it sold over 1 million units, which is amazing. It's kind of one of those GameCube games that people remember way more fondly than the critical reviews it got. What can I say about this title? Crazy Taxi on the Dreamcast. For a lot of people, it's one of the console's defining arcade experiences. Any chance I get to talk about Crazy Taxi, I will take. This is Star Wars Lethal Alliance on the PSP, and definitely one of those mid-2000s Star Wars deep cuts that a lot of people forgot about. But the PSP version is absolutely the one to have. It's also on the DS, but this is the superior version. It came out in December of 2006, developed by Ubisoft Montreal, and it's between episode 3 and 4. The cool thing is that it tried to expand Star Wars lore with an original character instead of just reusing movie heroes. It's definitely not top tier Star Wars, but on PSP, this feels like the proper version of the game. Star Wars Shadows of the Empire, I remember playing this a lot when I was growing up, and it's a big one historically because it was one of the earliest major Star Wars games of the 3D console era, and one of the games that helped sell the Nintendo 64's next-gen feeling in the late 90s. I love this game, it's one of my favorite Star Wars games. It's a bit clunky now, but this was a very big deal in the Nintendo 64 era, and is still one of the most memorable early 3D Star Wars games.
360 degrees of tomorrow, and for once, live to tell about it. Because I've got the ultimate fighting machine.
Near the end of the con here, I made my way into the guest signing area. I wanted to make sure that I could get my copy of Expedition signed and give Ben Starr a copy of my documentary, Going Postal. So I brought my copy with me on Xbox, waited in line, and got a chance to meet and hang out with some cool fans before I got the chance to talk to Ben Starr. But I also saw all the cast and crew there. Unfortunately, I just didn't have the time to get everybody to sign something. But I met Ben Starr, we talked a moment about our love of Resident Evil, what games we were playing, and also I had the opportunity to tell him about some documentaries I was working on. And the cool thing is he asked me what he thought that he should sign as far as a quote goes on to the game. I told him, feel free to sign whatever you think Verso would say. He asked what kind of quote, and I said, maybe something serious. So he put that on there, which I think is just super relatable and very cool, super awesome to be able to meet Ben Starr. This might be one of the craziest prices I had seen on a DS game, especially for Cory in the House on the DS. This one is famous less for being a great game and more because the internet turned it into a long-running joke. It came out in 2008, critics were not kind to it obviously, and IGN in particular was pretty rough to it. And as of recently, in January of 2026, it surged again and briefly challenged the top of Metacritic's users' ratings. As a joke, people rated this one of the highest games ever rated. That's why this is such a highly priced game. Just insane.
Do you think God stays in heaven because he too lives in fear of what he's created?
What the fuck?
Before I decided to call it good and head home, I knew that there were a couple of more things that I wanted here to pick up. I hit up this one vendor that I saw. I knew I really wanted Tomodachi Life on the DS. Definitely one of the titles that's a little bit more expensive, but I really also wanted this Nintendo 64 drawer and maybe complement it with a Nintendo 64 game. We talked a little bit, we bargained. Thankfully, he was willing to come down in price for a couple of good titles, and he was wrapping out for the day. He didn't want to have to take all this home, so I went home with a Nintendo 64 drawer and Mario Party 2 on the 64, which I was super excited about. These are usually pretty expensive copies, and he gave me a great price on both as a bundle, so I was thrilled to take it off of his hands.
Boards and 64 minigames, you're definitely gonna want in.
As the con closed down and everything wrapped up, people went home. I was taking a walk with a backpack full of stuff, taking the memories of this con with me, and a lot of games that I couldn't wait to dig into when I got home. And now I can't wait to show you guys what I picked up. You know I had to go for a Nintendo 2DS, and I went with the original color, this nice, cool aqua blue. Such a cool system. I can't wait to play all of my original 3DS games on this and try to dive into some new titles that I haven't before. I love the form factor, how cool and sleek the system is, and I like that it's just easy to pick up and play. One thing that I brought with me at the con was my Nintendo 3DS. I wanted to see if I could get some street passes, and I had 62 street passes available, which was insane. I never thought that I would get so many street pass notifications and meet new people and friends here on my 3DS. It just goes to show that the 3DS is still wicked alive, so bring your 3DS with you wherever you go. I also picked up Tomodachi Life on the 3DS. It's one of the weirdest Nintendo hits ever. Basically, it's a life sim soap opera where your Miis form friendships, rivalries, romances, and bizarre little drama arcs. This surprisingly sold really well at over 6.72 million copies worldwide, which is huge and puts it amongst the best-selling 3DS games ever. They also released the new Tomodachi Life on the Switch. I've been super into it, making all of my friends, recreating cool scenarios. This is such a cool little hidden gem. And if you get the chance to pick it up for a great price, I highly recommend it. It's always a good time to dive in and make some Mii friends. I actually let my girlfriend play this and she became addicted to it for a couple of days. She actually stopped by and wanted to leave a little voice message here. So what do you think of Tomodachi Life? What did you think of it?
Well, I really liked making all of the characters, and I liked naming them and putting them to their true personalities because I made them all real people. But what I didn't like is that they were all so needy. They kept asking me for stuff. Like your grandma, she asked me for like a new outfit, and then she asked me for a new house layout, and then she asked me, she was hungry. All of them are hungry all the time.
So to wrap it up, what do you give it on a scale of 1 to 10?
7.3.
7.3. Okay, all right, you heard it here, folks. This is another one I had to pick up, which is Peter Jackson's King Kong, the official game of the movie. I saw that this was recently on IGN's top Xbox games of all time, and this is one of the all-time examples of a licensed movie game actually being good. Ubisoft made this with input from Peter Jackson, and this was praised for its atmosphere, immersion, and the cool switch between playing as Jack and King Kong. This was also a commercial hit, selling more than 4.5 million copies by the end of March 2006. I picked it up for $25. It was a great pickup for a game that has a much better reputation than most tie-in movies ever get. Another title I picked up is WinBack Covert Operation on the 64. And this is a cool title because it was doing cover-based shooting on the 64 before it became a huge thing. This came out in 1999, and one of the big reasons that people still remember it is because of that cover pop out and shoot gameplay, which would later show up in games like Metal Gear Solid 2 and eventually become a huge part in shooters in general. So even if this is a little clunky by today's standards, it still is a really interesting piece of shooter history and a genuinely neat Nintendo 64 pickup. Another title I picked up is Gex 64, which was basically a reminder that the late 90s were full of mascot platformers trying to stand out through attitude and one-liners. The series is based around a TV-obsessed gecko, and the humor is pop culture reference overload. Critically, Gex was never an untouchable top-tier platforming franchise, but it stayed alive through nostalgia and weird charm.
One TV-obsessed gecko, revolutionary 3D graphics, free-roaming gameplay. It's Gex, Enter the Gecko.
This is such a great game that I can't believe I never had in my collection. Star Fox on the SNES. It's definitely one of those games that made kids in the 90s feel like they were witnessing the future. Those chunky little polygons may look adorable now, but back then this was Nintendo saying, oh, you want 3D? Boom, here you go. It's fun, it's fast, it's wildly charming, and this has the perfect arcade-style replay factor where you instantly want to run it back and do better. Also, I wanted to do a quick shout out to the CLZ Games app. This isn't sponsored at all, I just genuinely love this app. If you collect games and you want a clean way to organize and catalog everything, scan barcodes, and keep track of what you own, it's honestly awesome. It's one of those apps that just makes collecting feel way more organized, and I use it all the time when I'm out to see if I have something in my collection, and so I can double check what prices are, especially if I'm trying to get a good deal. Like I said, this isn't sponsored at all, but I genuinely think this is a great app. If you're a serious collector, it's only $20 a year, and it's totally worth it. Diner Dash is another one I picked up, and it's one of those defining time management games of the early 2000s. It's basically a whole loop of seating customers, taking orders, serving food, and keeping everybody happy. It sounds simple, but it becomes pure multitasking chaos in the best way. It's also kind of on the precipice of what Overcooked became, especially in that same control panicked energy. Definitely worth picking up if you like multitasking games. Duke Nukem Land of the Babes feels like the exact moment gaming decided, what if we made this as absurd as possible and then somehow made it even dumber? It's pure attitude, zero shame, and all the subtle grace of a steel-toed boot through a drywall wall. Yeah, it's awesome. It might not be high art, but this is definitely a weird piece of Duke Nukem history. It's kind of amazing, I love it for what it is, and if you like Duke Nukem, you'll definitely like Land of the Babes.
One year has passed since the battle with the Fourth Empire.
Another Dreamcast game I picked up is Plasma Sword Nightmare of Blisstein. This was a Capcom 3D fighter and a sequel to Star Gladiator, which means that it has that classic Capcom energy, but in a spacey weapon-based arena. My friend recommended this to me. I'm a big fan of fighting games, especially on the Dreamcast, and I can't believe I didn't already have this. Plasma Sword never reached the same level of fame as Soul Calibur or games like Marvel vs. Capcom, but it definitely has cool appeal, especially for Dreamcast fans and arcade fighting game fans. Reviews on this were mixed, but overall people thought that it was fun and flashy. It's not quite elite by Dreamcast fighting standards, which kind of makes it a cool pickup, because it's that kind of game that fighting game diehards remember even if the mainstream mostly forgot about it.
Round one, fight!
The Nintendo 64 storage box is one of those little nerdy retro accessories that collectors absolutely eat up. I had to pick myself up one. I went back and I realized I need another one because I have so many 64 games. It's a great way to store them. It's not flashy and it's not rare like some insane grail item, but this is the kind of piece that a Nintendo 64 setup feel way more legit. Plus, let's be honest, anything that keeps those cartridges from rattling around loose is already a win in my book. I I also had to pick up 2 Nintendo 64 games that are absolute cult classics, Pokemon Stadium, and then I went ahead and picked up the sequel, Pokemon Stadium 2. I had actually never played Pokemon Stadium 2, always just played Pokemon Stadium 1 as a kid, and I remember Pokemon Stadium being a huge deal because it let players see Pokemon battles in full 3D. That was pretty cool on a home console at the time when that still felt mind-blowing. I remember being flabbergasted as a kid. And this quickly became one of the best-selling Nintendo 64 games. It sold about 5.46 million copies. This definitely helped turn Pokemon into an even bigger console event beyond the Game Boy game. I got both 1 and 2 for $100. It was a really nice deal, especially since together they're a strong snapshot of peak Pokemon mania on the 64.
Stadium 2, rated E for everyone.
The first thing that I do when I come home, usually when I get my new games, is I open them up. I want to make sure that they are nice and clean before I put them into my analog 3D or my original 64. I don't want to be dirtying up that 64 console with old and dirty pins. So I take a Q-tip with some light alcohol on it, rub it down, make sure those pins are nice and clean, and the game is good to go. I'll do this for every single game. I want to make sure that I keep all of my consoles nice and the games nice. And also I want to make sure that all of these games are legitimate. Sometimes you really can't tell because there are really good counterfeits out there. So I'll open it up, make sure that the Nintendo logo is legit, and then from there I'll take it and I'll start doing some organization. One of the things that I like to do too is organize my games alphabetically. So if we have people over and they want to play a game, it's so much easier than knowing where it is than having to dig through a bunch of loose cartridges and find out where that game is, especially since the 64, they don't have the game titles, most of them labeled on the top. So it's so much easier to be able to find where it is if you just can know where it is alphabetically. I'm very grateful my girlfriend helped me out with this and it looks super cool now. That's it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed our journey to the Game On Expo. And if you don't mind, leaving me a comment down below and liking this video helps out a lot. And subscribe while you're here. Let me know what your favorite game was that I picked up on this list and any other recommendations you guys have. I'll catch you guys on the next one. And remember, be kind, play on.